This is the World Organic News for the week ending 20th of August 2018. John Moore reporting. Decarbonise the air, recarbonise the soil. We begin this week with a quote from Bill Mollison. Quote, "Though the problems of the world are increasingly complex, the solutions remain embarrassingly simple." Bill Mollison. End quote. This quote is at the top of our first post for this week. Maintaining the ways of our ancestors from Neolithic lifestyle, RX. This post is an excoriating attack on the mainstream, the work, debt, consume, repeat mainstream. Now, it's unlikely that people living that life would be reading the blog quoted, but we live in hope. The solutions suggested, though, are worth a look. Quote, "We can provide for our own needs on our own terms. We can reject the industrial food distribution network that threatens to collapse our global ecology, and instead eat seasonally from the land which immediately surrounds us. We can reject the profit and status-driven mindset that divides us in favour of an ethic that puts health and wellness first while emphasising family bonds and community interconnections as the pillars of true wealth. We can reject the polarising and ultimately distracting political charades of our era and embrace, just by doing something, anything productive, right now." End quote. This last sentence, "we can reject the polarising and ultimately distracting political charades of our era and embrace, just doing something, anything productive right now," put me in mind of another one of my favourite Mollison quotes. Quote, "The greatest change we need to make is from consumption to production, even if on a small scale in our own gardens. If only 10% of us do this, there is enough for everyone. Hence the futility of revolutionaries who have no gardens, who depend on the very system they attack, and who produce words and bullets, not food and shelter." End quote. The more we move from consumption to production, the better we and this world will be. The rest of this post, and it is a good serious length, you can read at the link in the show notes. I would recommend it. We now come to a post from Ancient Foods entitled "Ancient Farmers Transformed Amazon and Left an Enduring Legacy on the Rainforest." I think it is possible to underestimate the effect we humans have had on the planet. We've been altering ecosystems for far longer than the fossil fuel free-for-all since the Second World War. From the post, quote, "Ancient communities transformed the Amazon thousands of years ago, farming in a way which has had a lasting impact on the rainforest. A major new study shows farmers had a more profound effect on the supposedly untouched rainforest than previously thought. Introducing crops to new areas, boosting the number of edible tree species, and using fire to improve the nutrient content of soil, experts have found." End quote. This is not dissimilar to the effects of the indigenous peoples of Australia had upon that continent. The key element, which from my reading stands out from Amazonia to the Antipodes to Africa, is the use of fire as part of a landscape management toolkit. The European farming mindset sees fires as damaging. Think barn burnings and the lack of winter feed for stock. That fire, when properly used, can be beneficial to both the landscape and the humans and other animals living on it, take mindset shift to accept. When I say beneficial to the landscape, I mean it alters the landscape, but in a way that appears to do very little ecological damage. It alters the balance between trees and understory in favour of grasses and herbs over shrubs, thus reducing the fuel load for wildfires. Given the northern summer this year, it might be worth having a think about this landscape management tool. Anyway, I think we need to realise that most landscapes outside of Antarctica have been modified by human activity. Some for the good, some not so. We need to think deeply before we alter any ecosystem, fully aware that no matter how deeply we have considered this change, there will be unintended consequences that we will then need to adapt to. Our next post is from the Pacific Livelihoods Research Group entitled "Fourth World Congress on Agroforestry." Quote, "The Pacific Livelihood Research Group's Professor George Curry is on the scientific committee for the World Congress on Agroforestry to be held in Montpellier, France, between 20 and 25 May 2019. The overall object of the Congress is to contribute to the progress of agroforestry science and practice in order to bridge the science policy gap. More than 1,000 delegates and leading keynote speakers from all over the world will be making this gathering a unique experience." End quote. This looks like a wonderful Congress. I've tentatively added it to my diary for next year. Agroforestry is, to my way of thinking, a variation on the permaculture system. Indeed, I heard a podcast some 5 years ago where an academic stated he calls what he does agroforestry because if he called it what it really is, permaculture, he'd be drummed out of the academy. Whatever works is how I see the world, so agroforestry is a word I can work with. Now to a post that shows the difficulty some farmers have to face from the blog Middle East Affairs, entitled Yemen. Beekeepers are exposed to many airstrikes during the war. Quote, Sana'a. Yemen's beekeepers risk airstrikes and landmines as they traverse the country's valleys, transporting their hives on pickup trucks to produce some of the world's finest honey. The impoverished state, known for its Sidar honey, made from the jujube tree, has endured 3 years of war that have pushed it to the verge of famine and shattered the economy. End quote. Droughts come and go, floods too, but airstrikes are, thankfully, not many of us have to deal with these as a safety issue. Let's take some time thinking about the efforts required to follow your profession under these conditions. And from further in the post. Before the war, we produced large quantities of honey, but now honey farmers who move their private farms at night sometimes get hit by mistake, said Faraz Al-Houri, who owns one of the main honey stores in the capital Sana'a. It happened with 2 or 3 farmers we know where their farms were being bombed in airstrikes, end quote. In this centenary year of the Great War's ending, let's all make some efforts to bring a little more peace to the world, shall we? And on that sobering note, I'll draw this episode to a conclusion. Remember, decarbonise the air, recarbonise the soil.